Welcome back to this episode of That Music Podcast. We've talked over the last couple of weeks all about subplans, the good, bad, and the ugly, and also just reminding you to take the day. So today I'm going to share one of my all-time favorite strategies, which is using a Google Doc and using that as your subplans. Let's talk about that.
You're listening to That Music Podcast with Bryson Tarbett, the curriculum designer and educational consultant behind That Music Teacher and the Elementary Music Summit. Each week, Bryson and his guests will dive into the reality of being an elementary music teacher and how music can truly be transformative in the lives of the students you serve. Show notes and resources mentioned in this episode can be found at thatmusicteacher.com.
I use digital subplans for pretty much everything, but where they really came to shine was when I had an unplanned day off. So when I woke up in the morning and I'm like, everything is awful, my head is pounding, I can't do this. Because I didn't have to go into school to update my subplans. I could, roll over, open up a laptop and try my best to make subplans in bed that way that they were there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how I did that because I used a Google Doc. I'm sure you could do this in other software as well because they're really good for allowing you to change things because it's a Google Doc. It's a live edit. I talked, a couple episodes ago, I shared how, when I had my first foster daughter, we ended up in the hospital for about a week. And obviously I was not able to go into school to update my subplans. So by being able to, when she was asleep, update a Google Doc, that really came in clutch because it allowed me to make sure that my lesson plans were still good, but I didn't have to completely uproot where I was needed to be in order to do that. So let's talk a little bit about this. So when I was in the classroom, I quickly realized the limitations of paper plans, especially for those unexpected sick days. I needed a way that I could update my plans, share resources, and communicate with the school from wherever I was in whatever state that I was. So actually I came across this very simple solution, which is having a master Google Doc. The key here is to set it so that it says anyone with link can view it. This meant that subs don't have to log in for anything. There's no special software. All they have to do is use a link. And to make it even simpler, I took it a step further. I created a bit.ly link or a tiny URL link. Basically, a QR code is basically a URL shortener. So, for instance, for example, this isn't the real one, but my student or my sub could log in, tinyurl.com/tarbet-sub, and my lesson plans would always be there. This meant that if I woke up with a fever and I really didn't want to drag myself into school to print something out, I could update the Google Doc from my couch, text it or email the link to my secretary, put it in the notes in ASOP, and know that everything the sub needed was right there. And bonus, I would say, hey, Cindy, thank you for being wonderful. These are my sub plans for today. Can you print out a copy for my subs as well? So they had a physical copy, and at the bottom of the copy, it had the link so that they could get it digitally, so they could pull it up on my smartboard, on whatever else they needed. And we're going to talk a little bit about why that's important. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So first of all, here's a few steps. So step one, choose your platform. If you have if you're a school that uses Google Docs, use Google Docs. But if you don't, you will likely have something similar, right? Cloud-based. I don't know, Microsoft Word, is that a thing that's cloud-based now? If you're a Microsoft school. And then step two is just create a new document. So create it, start a Google Doc, make sure that your share settings are correct so that anyone can view it with a link. Put all of your information. I'm going to walk you through my copy in a little bit. So if you're not watching on YouTube, this is actually one of those episodes you might want to hop on over YouTube so you can get a visual. But put anything in here. Welcome message, important contacts, school procedures, things like that. I will say, since this is something that you are setting that anyone with link can view, I really would not put anything specifically confidential in here, IEPs or anything like that, or information. This is something that I would leave for physical on/in my desk. But you can put pretty much anything else in here and giving them any specific links. So we'll talk a little bit about that when I go through it. And then once you have the link, again, make sure that it is set to anyone with link can view, and then creating a bit.ly link or a QR code or both. That way they can they can pull them up digitally if they need to. They can pull it up on their phone if they need to. And then I think, if you're able to, if you know that you're going to be out and you're doing this, printing out a copy and put it on your desk is great. Or, if you don't know you're going to be there, sending it to your secretary or your principal and asking them to print it. And this is a bonus tip. If you have an interactive whiteboard, smartboard, whatever any of those are called, favorite this link in your browser for easy access. So if you might just say, hey, click on the browser, click the star, click subplans. Boom, they're now on your board. Whatever you can do to make it as simple as possible. And also just make sure that your administration and your secretary knows this. So let them know that you have a digital system. Show them how to access it if they need to, and just let them know that this is going to make things a lot easier for you, for them too. There's no hunting for binders. And again, I talked previously, also have some physical plans that are ready in your classroom, just in case the internet is out or whatever. But for the vast majority of the time, this is something that I think is going to be a game changer. So let's go ahead and walk through my subplans. So obviously I have some things blocked out, but let's take a peek. Alrighty, so here I have my subplans. So here I have basically a welcome letter that kind of tells them all the ins and the outs. Then I have at the bottom, again, I have an easy to type in link, so you can use tinyURL or bit.ly, so that if they need to get it digitally, they can, because it's really important if I have any links, they're clickable in here, right? They don't have to type in 1,000 words if they're clickable on here. Then I have my schedule here. So I was at 2 schools, so I had my middle school schedule. I kind of talked a little bit about the TV because the TV at that school was kind of a hot mess. So how to do that. I have my schedule, and then some different subplans. So here's some options. Apparently the last time I did this, I don't know what I was doing, but so option 1 is just basically using the predetermined subplans that I had on my desk. And then option 2, I gave a choice day. And I gave some different songs to kind of do this. And my students know how choice days work. And I also said, basically, if none of those work, there's a red bin behind my desk that's also there. So you have options. Choose whatever you want. Because I never wanted my principal to be able to say, well, you didn't give them plans that were easy to follow, or your plans were too technical. Nope, they have plenty of choices. And then here, for instance, I have some examples of why it's important to have the digital. So for instance, for my preschool, I wanted them to be able to do some music. So I actually included the clickable links for them to do. And for instance here, I said the egg shaker is going to be next to the desk. I was very clear, and all they have to do is push the button and it opens up the video. I also included information about how to get into the computers. I have my principal and my secretary phone numbers here. Different emergency procedures for each building. Basically everything that they need to know was in this document. So you can really take that and make it anything. So for instance, I've also purchased choice boards, digital choice boards on TPT for subplans. All right, I linked those in my Google Doc. So all they had to do was click it to open it. They didn't have to find it. They didn't have to go searching. They just clicked it and it opened it up. I've done it before where they're watching a video of their performance. I linked it in that Google Doc and all they had to do was open that up. So here are some different tips that you can do. First of all, keep it clear and concise. Subs are often overwhelmed, so using things like headings, bullet points, and simple language can make it super simple, especially if they're getting pulled in at the last moment and they don't have a lot of time to look through your plans. But on the flip side of that, also assume nothing. Explain every step as if a sub has never been in a music classroom. Also, make sure that your school's Wi-Fi is reliable enough for you to use this, especially if you're using subplans that have some sort of requirement to be connected to the internet, and always have a backup plan just in case. Especially when the internet goes down, because it does go down, let's be honest, it goes down sometimes. So always having a backup plan just in case. Be mindful of sharing school systems. So maybe instead of putting the specific password in the document, say where to find it. You're gonna, you can see the login information on the laminated card by my computer or whatever, rather than listing in the document itself. Also test it out. Send it to somebody to double check your lesson or your document and make sure it's easy to follow and that they can open everything they need to, especially on school Wi-Fi, because sometimes you'll have everything that works great on your home Wi-Fi, and then when you go into your school Wi-Fi, everything is blocked. So just be aware of that. So over the past month, we've talked a lot about subplans and taking days off, and because I think it's really important, especially as we dive into flu season. I'm sorry for bringing that up, but it matters how you show up. If you show up with no voice, feeling like absolute garbage, it's not the same as if you just take a sick day. Do what you need to do. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, set your students up for success, set your substitutes up for success, set yourself up for success with some of the strategies that we talked about over the past few weeks. But also just don't feel bad about taking a day off, because sometimes you just have to. And I think using something like a digital master doc, like we've talked about in this episode, can be really helpful in allowing you to do that in a way that doesn't create like so much more work for you when you're already feeling like garbage. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining us for another week of That Music Podcast. It would mean the world to us if you were to leave us a review and subscribe wherever you are listening to or watching us. And as always, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for making a difference in the lives of the students that we teach.